Do we have that?
Hi, everyone.
Copy of the agenda? Yes.
Awesome. I will call this meeting to order at 6:03, Thursday, April 18th, for the Woodlands County Economic Development Committee. Alrighty, so if I could, just want to check, hey, Devin, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. Hi, everyone.
Awesome.
Hello, Devin. Thank you for joining us online.
Yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't get out of work quite early enough, so I thought I'd just do it this way rather than miss it. There's not a whole bunch going tonight.
Awesome. Well, we much appreciate having you here. That's great. So, cool. If I could, moving on to two, just ask if somebody wants to put a motion forward to adopt the agenda.
Madam Chair, if I can just do a brief introduction.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So to formally, excuse me, got a frog stuck there. So to formally introduce to everyone, I'm very proud, very happy, very excited to introduce Jen Lanning. Jen is our new administrative assistant with community services with Woodlands County. And Jen's position will be half-time working with myself and helping us to move along all of our economic development initiatives. And half-time she is working with Sheldon, who is our manager for emergency services, and she'll be working along on that file too. So we are incredibly excited to have her on board, and it's been an incredible first couple of days. It's hard to believe it's been 4 days already, but we've thrown her into the deep end of the pool, and she's doing great. So welcome aboard.
Thank you. Welcome.
Awesome. Welcome, Jen. And I would really like to also say as well that for us, for the committee, and having your part-time position was something that we push forward as a committee here. So we're really, really happy that you're here. And it's also a win for our group. So we look forward to everything that's going to come in the future.
Yes, so do I.
Awesome. Alrighty, so moving on, is there any changes to the agenda? Anything anybody'd like to add?
There are maybe a couple of other items that I might be able to add in just verbally under the work plan updates. But those will just be verbal additions, and I'll add those in. So no major agenda changes, but I've got some other information I can report on as well.
Okay, perfect. All right,
I move that we adopt the agenda as presented with Bert's little add-ins.
Awesome, thanks. So any further discussion? No. Then I'll call the question. All in favor?
In favor.
Thanks, Devin. Alrighty, so moving right along to number 3, the adoption of the minutes. So is there any discussion, any additions or changes to the minutes? Okay,
I'll move that we adopt the minutes as presented.
thank you, Shelley. And with that, and then I will call the question. All in favor?
In favor.
Thanks, Devin. Okay, so tonight we don't have delegations. We're going to move right along to section 6, new business, and I will turn it over to Bert.
Okay, so before I forget to mention this, for all of our attendees that were there as members at large, please submit your expense forms as soon as possible. Okay, there we go. I just wanted to make sure I didn't forget to say that.
Pointing fingers anywhere.
We so greatly
What's he pointing at me?
appreciate everybody's time and commitment, and we want to make sure that you are paid according to our pay schedule as quickly as we can get you paid. So thank you.
Awesome, and excuse me, Bert, just for 1 second before you start with 6.1. I just wanted to ask, did you have something to add, Krista?
Yeah, what's 5? Strategic thinking.
So we don't have anything under that action item for tonight, but we do have that on as a rolling agenda item, just so that that's where occasionally we'll end up reviewing the strategic plan, or if there is anything under strategic thinking or a strategic update coming from council that we need to bring to the committee, or if there's something that the committee wants to discuss under that heading, that's why we keep it on the agenda.
Gotcha.
Okay, awesome. And I do want to interject before we get into new business as well. I guess I should have mentioned under the agenda that part of the decision going ahead with this meeting, we knew April was going to be really busy and with the EDA and so on, but we wanted to make sure that we were able to have it. So we intentionally didn't have any delegations tonight. and wanted to make sure that we had enough time within our meeting to discuss the EDA and any questions and so on that came out from that. So, awesome, take it away.
Okay, thank you. So it was a rousing time in Kananaskis once again. It was, and I mean, I'm going to let the committee kind of give their comments first, because as always with this event, it takes me about 2 to 3 weeks to kind of unpack all of the things I've seen and some of the ideas and some of the connections. But there were certainly some very good specific connections made again this year. A couple of the things that really stood out for me was in some of the presentations, some of the branding, local branding pieces align very closely with what we're exploring based on the delegation from our last meeting. So there was some neat connections and some neat synergies and some things to explore and to investigate there. There was once again a couple of grant programs that I was reminded of that we haven't necessarily maybe applied for in the past that we can certainly take a look at for the future. And there's some other windows and some other things. So I'll say my opening perspective is great connections, great networking, a ton of opportunity, and almost more information than you can conceivably take in over a 2.5, 3 day period.
Thank you for that. I absolutely agree. Okay. Go ahead, Kristen.
What grant, was there any grant specifically that you were reminded to apply for?
Yeah, so one is, so there's the Investment Growth Fund, and that's one specific.
Investment in growth?
Investment and Growth Fund. And it's a provincial fund that they use around when you're at the final point of setting or working with a site selection group or a company on a site. There are some possibilities. And one of the things that for me was very good was I did have a couple of really good one-on-one meetings with some folks from Invest Alberta. Invest Alberta is a relatively new entity. Over the last year, they have had a fair bit of turnover in their personnel. And it was disappointing on the one hand when they gave their presentation. They did not mention the Regional Investment Initiative seminar that we had done with the Growth RETA. They mentioned the one from Braid, but we were the second one. And that wasn't anywhere on their list of the things that they'd accomplished in the last year. So I was a bit disappointed to not see that. But that being said, in the conversation that I had with Thomas from Invest Alberta, he did mention that the RFIs, so the requests for information that they've received from us that we've submitted, have been some of the best work and the best data that they've received back. He said that we're very quick, we're very concise, our information is accurate. He said, you guys are so wonderful to work with Woodlands, and so that was very positive.
This is when they do RFIs like for potential investment
Yes.
opportunities.
Yeah,
So that's good feedback.
yeah, it was very positive. And so one of the things that we want to do in the coming days and weeks is to sit down with Thomas and Cigar and with Xiao and figure out how we can further position Woodlands to be one of the places that they consider very regularly and routinely, and what can we do to kind of set ourselves apart. We do have our information now up. There is the new site selection tool that Invest Alberta and through JET, Jobs, Economy and Trade, that they've put up. All of our information is on there and is up to date.
And that's on Invest Alberta? Sorry to
well,
interrupt.
so they played a role in setting it up, but it's actually through JET. And if you just give it a Google, we can certainly send the link out as well. But the site selector tool, we have all of our Woodlands information is on there, including our direct contact info.
Awesome.
Excuse me.
Is there a mechanism, I guess, with SiteLink to roll that out to the SiteLink participants that we had contacts with in
I'm
the
really
past?
hoping that they do. I haven't had a chance to talk to anybody specifically about that yet, but I do have, so the Invest Alberta, is it the Invest Alberta Guide? So it isn't put out by Invest Alberta, but it's the magazine that's put out by EDA. I guess it's the Experience Alberta and the Invest Alberta Guide. We actually have a whole bunch of those that Oddvod Publishing gave to us to distribute at the Site Selectors Conference in GP. And so along with that, I hope to be able to tell them about that Site Selector tool. So if nobody else does, we certainly will.
Okay, excellent. Okay, and then I also wanted to ask, if I remember correctly, Alan had forwarded his comments for EDA to you?
Yes, and so I have his comments here. And from Councillor Dean, we have a couple of things. EDA conference was once again a great opportunity to learn and to network. Highlight was the awards dinner on Wednesday, where we were joined by Peter Schmill and Paul Chevet. Conversations around the table were a reminder of the close relationships once shared with Town of Whitecourt, and that both municipalities seek to get back to that type of a relationship. Sessions, as usual, were interesting. His favorite session was the Talent and Jobs Keys to Alberta's Future session, which spoke to the declining workforce and talked about the many demographic factors that are contributing to a shortage in of our skilled workers in our workforce. Skilled Canadians are also a target for international employers, and emerging workforces include many African countries, as their population is much younger than North Americans. So those were some of the key comments coming from Councillor Dean.
Awesome. Go ahead, Krista.
I didn't know I was supposed to write something. Do you want me to share some of my
Absolutely.
key takeaways?
And definitely, it didn't have to be something written. That was part of, we wanted to make sure that we had time during the meeting to have discussion about, so that we could share with the rest of the committee, you know, basically anything you wanted to share, so.
Well, I quickly looked over yours, and one of your key takeaways at the end was AI is not going to take your job, but someone who uses it will. And that was also one of my key takeaways. I was like, ooh, that was a big thought. One of the key thoughts that I thought at the beginning was, I think it was during Prairie's Can, they said 98% of business in Canada is small business. And so I was thinking, how can we, and how do we support our small businesses? I think that's a large opportunity for us to improve on. I think prior committee members had said that we don't make any money off of small businesses, the county. So nonetheless, I think it creates a more robust community, and that will in fact attract the professionals that I want for my other committee and my job, and that we want in our community to attract good business, right? So how do we support small business? One thing, as we all know, is we want to do that business directory. But one thing that they had said was, or one opportunity that I saw that somebody had mentioned was, we need to have an opportunity for these small businesses to be able to network and to connect with each other, so they can have their own networking kind of set up. So I was like, I don't know how that would be, but like we did that at EDA, we did all this networking, right?
Yes.
So I think an opportunity for our small businesses in our county to do the same would be really, really beneficial. As well, I think there's a lack of trust between the municipality and residents, from the residents to the municipality. So I was just trying to think, how can we build trust between them? Because I think we had talked before about the business directory, how do we get people to sign up? And I think people are scared too because of that lack of trust. Not because there's a lack of trust broken, the county did something to them, but I think people are just nervous about being charged more money, et cetera, et cetera. So I think those are just opportunities that we can do. Another huge takeaway was Patricia and I attended that Flagstaff Crafted. I'm pretty sure you probably wrote that in your spiel because it was so beautiful. Are we going to show their video? You had talked about it.
Oh, I put the link in here, and actually, that's a great question and something that, Jen, are you able to access the link on there to show it on our screen here for our live meeting?
I don't think at the moment I can, just because I don't have the agenda pulled up on the live stream.
Yeah.
But we certainly could take and postpone it until the following meeting, if that's okay with you.
Okay. Yeah, it is definitely, it's a short video that I would like to show the group. And I had meant, thank you for that, because I had meant to ask that part and I wasn't sure how we can share media through this platform.
Just because I think our prior meeting, one of the delegates that came and talked with Twin Acres and Shiny Moonlight, and they wanted an initiative, small initiative, just to get a badge to say that they're made local, and Flagstaff Crafted took that initiative and went 1,000 degrees farther. And it was really, really beautiful to kind of see the county support their small businesses. The small businesses support each other. Then the bigger businesses in that municipality support these smaller businesses by having the co-op have a special spot in their store for Flagstaff crafted goods. And there was a big sign on the wall saying, from the roof, Flagstaff crafted. It was really cool. And they did a gift guide before Christmas. So residents could see their locally made goods. And it was really, really amazing kind of initiative that they took there. I'm not saying Woodlands County needs to obviously go maybe to that degree. Like Flagstaff Crafted has their own website that they have their own photographer that they created a brand, right? But it was very inspiring. So I really highly suggested to look that up.
Well, in similar to that, I know in the presentation that I was in, the Ready Rita, they have the Ready Made. And so they did a conference around it, but they actually created some business case studies and some different things to take a look at how do you attract investment in and what are some of the business cases that they could have sort of pre-written and ready to go. And it also focuses a little bit on some of that. So both of those things, if they don't fit into the Woodlands Local and that brand development that we're working on or that pilot project that we're working on, if they don't fit there, they'll definitely fit into the research we're doing under the SCOP.
Right.
So it was incredible information, and it helps us to highlight what some of the solutions possibly could be for where we can help to lead our local business community too. So yeah, those are great takeaways. Thank you, Kristen.
And just the AI opportunities were very, again, inspiring. Peter Smeal and I were next to each other trying to, what did you put into ChatGPT and what did it tell you? So, yeah, it was, I'll start using it now.
Awesome.
I had a couple other things, but I don't think, I have to kind of formulate what I was trying to say.
Okay, well, if you like, then I can touch on mine and then I'll circle back for yours. So just to kind of expand on what Kristen had said, definitely for me, like I had looked at what were the 3 most impactful sessions, and under the business retention and expansion, it was called Accelerating the Way Your Community Does Business. And that's where they introduced us to this Flagstaff Crafted. So in your meeting package, the hyperlink will bring you to the video. So anybody on our committee or that wants to access the package online, if they're watching this meeting video, then they can definitely go there. And I believe the video is 4 minutes or something, but it's done extremely well. And when I had spoke to the facilitator of that program, I was curious about what kind of an investment, because it looks like such a high quality product. And I was wondering what kind of money they had behind them and as far as their residents. So from what I can understand, it looks like they're serving an area of about 9,700 people. And they started it, she said, initially with a $30,000 NRED grant. And now after 5 years, she figured her spend was around the $50,000 range. So to see what they've come out of this with, it really didn't seem like a very substantial investment for the value that they've come out of it. And you could also tell with the project and, when you see in the video, the pride to which the ownership of the businesses have in owning that brand in the community. So that's something that it's not measured through economic development, but you can see that it definitely increased the social value and in creating those kind of connections. So that's some of the reasons I know I was excited about it as well. And when I see also in that same session, there was a presentation for Ellie Bianca Natural Skincare. Natural Skincare. The founder and CEO, Evelyn Nairo, her beauty line is an organic Canadian-made product currently based in Calgary. The products have recently been brought into Costco and also sell to international markets. She discussed the need to elevate education and business opportunities for women in Alberta's rural communities, as well as the importance of recognizing opportunities of the expanding African marketplace. And when I spoke to her actually afterwards, one of the things that I found really interesting is she's actually a biochemist who had worked in the oil and gas sector. And when part of the funding for her project came from PepsiCo they had bought Stacy's Chips. And what she had said to me, Stacy's Chips it was a brand that was started something like a woman who had a food truck in New York selling sandwiches. And it was so busy, people were lined up that she was making these kettle chips basically to give to people in line so they wouldn't leave because she was worried that they'd leave. And that ended up becoming a brand. And the numbers she had mentioned, Pepsi had offered to buy, it was close to $1 billion. And she ended up negotiating and making a sale price of $300 million for the company with the agreement that the remainder of the funds would actually go into supporting female-run businesses. And so part of her funding came from a grant through Pepsi. She was one of 5 businesses that had received this. So it was really interesting to see where she's going with the project, and that it's an Alberta-made, organic product that will have a feedstock from Alberta farms here as for where she's getting her materials and so on. So it's certainly a win to see something like that. Also, for tapping the untapped, practical strategies for getting untapped entrepreneurial talent off the sidelines. So what this presentation basically was, it was talking about, he started his presentation with showing a picture of a house moving down the ocean off the coast of Newfoundland around about 1920 when they were moving some of these homes. And there was a lot of engineering to see this big house on the ocean, not, going under when they were moving some of these communities. And he said, the person who did that had a grade 6 education. And one of the things that we're finding is that there's a lot of entrepreneurs that haven't followed, or basically would-be entrepreneurs, that because they haven't followed natural academic channels, then they're not getting their ideas to market. So he created this business and launched it in Nova Scotia, and now they're servicing all over North America, where it's a business incubator, and they go into communities and basically try to find people with ideas that wouldn't normally have created businesses. And it was really interesting approach to see how they go about doing it. And they've had remarkable success so far. I think it was over 300 businesses that they got off the ground in approximately 18 months. And the cost per person is about $1,000 a person. So he said they can host a cohort for $18,000 and approximately, so you're looking at, it just seems for that type of investment to be something kind of reasonable. So I'd like to learn more about this project going forward, and it really made me think in our community, I wonder how many of these people are in our community and what type of businesses, that they could get off the ground. So it was certainly very interesting. And also I guess I should mention there as well, this was everything from a tech startup that sold for $275 million and to, makers and craftspeople that had small businesses, and even some people that took the training and didn't go on to create their own business. They ended up getting feedback from their employers who said that these workers were actually much more productive at work, and the employers, had great feedback about the training, saying that it made them better workers. So that part was certainly something different that I've not encountered in any of the space that I've gone to any of these meetings or anything before. So then the third one for me was about the truth, information, and AI at your service, like Kristen had mentioned. And with my key takeaway out of that being, certainly with machine learning and generative AI and so on, it's a lot of people are concerned and wondering how this is going to affect their jobs going forward. And at the moment, it's still something that takes a human to run it in a lot of cases. So when we're talking about using generative AI for your business, then you want to have somebody who knows what prompts to give it, how to utilize it, and so on. So basically, my advice based on that to any of our businesses is get some training in this generative AI. And I'll give a shout out right now to Community Futures. I believe, if I remember correctly, is it April 25th possibly, that they're hosting a seminar for AI?
Possibly, I haven't heard anything yet.
Give
but-
me one quick second here and I'll see if I can get it, just so we have it in our, my apologies, I should have had that in my notes ready. Okay, I'll find it and add that in after, so, but if I remember correctly, it's a free seminar that basically will give businesses ideas of how they can use generative AI. So to certainly help. It's where it really shines, in my experience, I've been using it for about 6 months, is anything to do with marketing, writing copy, also summaries, anything that you have to correlate information, and where it usually would be fairly labor intensive in doing that type of work. What I use it for in my business is literally taken, what used to take me 10 hours, I can do in an hour now. So when I'm using it for that type of information. So, okay, and then the other part of that presentation that I did note in my notes here as well was there was a presentation from Rob Driscoll, he's the representative for Vancouver-based Big Media Limited. His presentation discussed truth in media and journalism that is not impacted by its advertisers. Big Media supported through the membership of his readers. He also discussed the alarming increase in the death rate of young and middle-aged men cited in the Alberta government statistics from 2021. So, and he excerpts the article below here. It was just the reason that I put that in there, I was so surprised to see a person from the media with this type of messaging in this forum. And because I feel that there's been a lot of challenges in having some difficult conversations. And it was nice to see a logical, fact-based presentation put forward in a venue where, with, I guess, information and creating the space to have good conversation and a respectful exchange of information. Okay, so that was essentially, other than one key thing that really stood out about the conference, and this speaks to, I'm usually always looking at things as well from a fiscal responsibility. How can we as a committee and as, the representative here do what we can to be accountable to the ratepayers of Woodlands County and be using their money wisely. And when it comes to having, multiple people attend a conference like this, I know it's something that before I certainly would have asked about, where is the benefit in this? And something that came about this time, it was really noted. And, one person in particular that, had mentioned it, I was speaking with Brad Hesteback, who is the representative for the REDS, the Regional Economic Development Specialist with the Government of Alberta as their spot, yeah.
Yeah,
And
Brad is the Reds for our region.
right, and he had said, it's so nice to see a team from Woodlands being so invested. And you could really tell that it really, at that time, it just clicked with me that if we have this group here and he sees we're at the sessions, we're engaged and we're showing up and we're asking questions and we're taking notes. And when he has a decision to make on his desk between us for a site or us for a grant and someone else who maybe hasn't seen that level of participation, then I guarantee that we're going to be getting that phone call and we're going to have that opportunity. And that was a benefit that I hadn't realized before this time. So, go ahead, Shelley.
So I observed that as well, especially at SiteLink. So much of EDA work is all about face-to-face networking. And so, like you say, when he goes to make that decision, he's going to remember you or Bert or Kristen. And it does make a difference in their decisions because people still make decisions. And so if they know you you have an edge over the guy he hasn't met. As long as you haven't, really made him angry. But, assuming you made a good impression, but it does make a
Knock on wood,
difference.
right?
And I think you're right. I think having big delegations to something like that is important. And the other thing too is, based on when I went last year, everybody goes to different sessions. So maybe people don't realize there's concurrent seminars going on. Like there's 3 or 4 different things you could go to. So the group disperses and you get the benefit of feedback from all the different sessions that are going on when you have a bigger group.
Exactly.
I think it is really valuable.
And thank you for that, because I felt the same way when I heard your comments about SiteLink, and it certainly has changed my perception from thinking of it as a single resident to now looking at it globally as
That's
a
why we're
committee.
here, right?
So,
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's certainly a win, and I really see the value in this conference. And based on that, and also having gone to Growing the North earlier in the year, I would really love to see a delegation next year go to Growing the North as well, because that is so much more applicable to our region and facing some of the same kind of opportunities and challenges that we're facing. And they've really grown that conference from what I understand. And it's certainly something that I think we should participate in and make sure that we're looking at from a budget to go forward, that we can do that. Awesome. And I wanted to kind of go back to you, Kristen. So was there something more that you had wanted to add on yours?
I don't know. No, just little things like, I still think there's an opportunity for the ATV community or snowmobiling community and pipelines. Because there's so many pipelines around here. ATV communities, like, because there's the White Court, come on, Trailblazers?
Yes.
And the Snowmobile Club, are they the Trailblazers?
The Trailblazers is the snowmobile
Oh,
group.
there's an ATV one.
Yeah, so we have the BMX club, and then there is an ATV club as well. My understanding is earlier this year, the ATV club isn't that active at the moment, but we
Right.
are working on doing expansions of the BMX, or not the BMX park, but of the motocross park, and working closely with them. I believe they had applied for one of our community service grants.
I just think, because ATVers usually, for the most part, like to keep their trails clean. They're not clean, muddy, but like free of trees and stuff like that. And so I think there's an opportunity, and if they saw something askew, then they would probably report it. So I think there's an opportunity maybe for,
Well, and so from our last Golden Triangle meeting that we had, the last 2 that we did this year, and it was unfortunate this year that all of our rallies were canceled due to snow conditions and all of that. But we do have all 3 of the snowmobile clubs working through the GT to sit down and to identify a section of trail for each of the 3 sections of the GT that can be used as a multi-use trail system.
right.
And so we are in the process of having the snowmobile clubs put that forward. That's something that they've been discussing around their respective tables, as well as when it was discussed around the GT table. That is certainly one of the paths forward for being able to expand and explore some of the tourism options and some of the ways for, right? So the idea was if we can have each of the 3 clubs identify a section of their trail that is easy to get to, that could be used, and they're still not real thrilled with motorized, but e-bikes, walking, Nordic poles, any of that kind of stuff. That's what the clubs are in the process of trying to identify, so that we can put together some kind of a broader trail package. And that's actually being, it actually goes all the way back to the Provincial Snowmobile Association, because they've kind of put that idea forward, that the trails that are there for snowmobilers have to be multi-use and used year-round. And so the big question around the table is, okay, they're willing to do that, but then who's going to do the maintenance? Because right now, with the way that the GT is structured, each of the 6 municipalities that are part of the GT all put in $15,000 a year. So there's an annual $90,000 budget, of which $60,000 is used for trail cleaning every year. So if it's gonna be used by.
Trail cleaning as in maintenance of snow with their like
No,
machines?
no, trail cleaning where they go out, they cut the brush back, they level everything. So they usually go out in the fall and then they go out and they do the grooming, right?
Because you wouldn't have, oh, sorry.
No, and so that's really kind of the key question, is who's gonna share the liability and who's gonna do the trail cleaning? So we're getting there, I think, and the groups are kind of working on how do we identify it, how do we work with partners, what do we do? And that's one of those GT discussions that I maybe haven't updated everybody on that recently, but I completely agree. And there are some really good options, and especially with that new Backwoods Trail Pass, it's really changed how we can use some of the trails and some of the things. And it's all gonna come down to a matter of money, liability, and management. But there's partnerships to be made, for sure.
Go ahead.
We've gotten so used to just talking freely. Yeah, I being an ATVer or a dirt biker, you always feel when you go on this, when you pass by the snowmobilers trail, you feel like you're trespassing. And I don't think it necessarily needs to be that way. I think there needs to be more collaboration and teamwork, but that's on both sides. I think it's just an opportunity, and that is the pipe. Two things. Is the pipeline companies involved in any of that? And my husband is turning 40 next year. We were looking into things to do. We were looking at Portugal because they have they have dirt biking tours. And you rent a dirt bike and you go from hotel to hotel, luxury hotel to luxury hotel. I'm like, man, somebody needs to do that here because we've got so many beautiful trails that you can go from. You can go from one community to another community. So that'd be really cool to do.
Well,
I'm not doing it, but
No, but
unless
if
you
we
give me
can
a
do
grant.
it with the snowmobile trails, and if you can do, 350 kilometers on the GT, why wouldn't you be able to do it on something else
They
too,
won't
right?
let you.
It certainly makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But, I mean, those are all things that we can take a look at developing in the long run, and it all coincides and fits with both the development of the Northern Rockies tourism strategy and how that part of things works, and with that overall provincial plan on how they want to create $12 billion worth of new tourism in rural and especially in our part. Like the Northern Rockies has been identified as one of the priority areas where they want to develop new attractions. So, yeah, it makes perfect sense, and there's some good alignment there.
And is pipeline companies involved at all with the GT?
Not to my knowledge yet, and it was interesting, and there is a working relationship between the snowmobile clubs and the pipeline companies and the forestry companies. And it has, I'll just say, much diplomacy in many layers, and I'll just leave it there.
Gotcha.
We can talk offline a bit too.
Yeah, because I'm like, there should be teamwork, right? Like, I will monitor your things.
And I think the key takeaway, I'm going to say maybe from the committee perspective, Bert, is I don't think we need a motion to this, but certainly there's interest on the committee that when you hear of anything that you can come back to update us with in regards to synergies on the trail systems or something that we
Well-
could support or get behind, if that's the case.
And I think the thing that's interesting is with the snowmobile groups that we're part of and through the GT, they've come to this realization on their own that they need to be working with a broader group around the trails. And I think that is an excellent place for them to be. They're just starting to explore how they can do it and how we can work on it together. And I think that we have the luxury of being part of a regional entity that we fund through the GT to kind of help them along and figure out how do we help them build and navigate some of these new relationships and build some of these new opportunities.
Go ahead, Kristen.
Can I move to adopt? Nope. Okay.
Madam Chair, I just have, I almost forgot, I do have a couple of comments from Reeve Cush as well.
Oh, okay,
So
sorry.
just very short. He very much enjoyed the engagement with the other elected officials being there. From an elected official's perspective, he said it was very interesting to be in the room and have everybody kind of focused on economic development as a topic. It was kind of a different feeling or different focus for them, I guess. But he thought it was really kind of interesting. And the one question that he put to me yesterday, which I thought was incredibly interesting, and it goes back to many of the things we've discussed around this table, which is he attended the session about the Greenview Industrial Gateway, and he says, it's really neat what they're doing in Greenview. And he says, don't we pretty much have kind of the same resources and the same layout, and how do we do that here? And I said, excellent question, Reeve, thank you so much. So, it just kind of reinforces, but it's really nice as a delegation to get this reinforcement on, we are trying to consider and work through the right kinds of priorities, so. Okay, that's all, thank you.
No,
Thank you for that.
I make a motion to adopt economic developers, the RFD as presented. Can I? Where's Jeremy?
Now, you might have to fight Devin for a motion. Devin, are you still there?
Yeah, you bet.
Are you better at wording things than me? Or giving hints?
The RFD 6.1, so you want to say
I have to say the whole thing
economic developers.
as information.
I can make the motion too if you want.
Do you present it better than me?
No, you guys are doing fantastic.
I think
thank you.
you did a great job.
I usually just read it right off the recommendation.
It's just so long. Jeremy said I should write it out.
Just read this.
Come on.
Is there,
If that's your recommendation.
Oh yeah, that is my recommendation.
Next time.
Yep.
okay, so we're good? We have a motion on the floor. Kristen recommends that the RFD for Economic Developers of Alberta 50th Annual Leadership Conference EDA Experience 2024 is accepted as presented. Is that your motion?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, is there any further discussion or comments? Did you have any questions on any of the information, Devin?
No, you guys explained it all actually pretty well. It sounded like it was very informative and well worth it. So no, that's good.
Awesome. Alrighty, so all in favor?
In favor.
Thanks. Alrighty, so moving on down to the work plan updates. So section 7, I guess it is technically 7.2. I will turn it over to you, Bert.
All right, thank you very much, Madam Chair. So there are a couple of items under work plan updates, and as part of our training and orientation and getting Jen going, she was very helpful and beneficial in getting some of the RFDs out for this meeting, and this includes this one. And we were able to sort of rebuild and update the 2023. And I just realized we still have it as 2023. That should say 2024 action items. So we'll make sure that we change that at the top of the title. That'll be at the top of page 12. But these are the updated dates and some of the information on the action items. And so those are included for discussion. And we also have, oh, sorry.
It's not in my package.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Nope, that's okay. I printed mine.
So that'll be on page 11 and 12, Madam Chair.
Okay.
And then we also have just a couple of bullet points about the Growth Rita International Development Week, and of course Jennifer and her introduction and the start of her with our team. So those are there for everybody's comments. With the Growth Rita, what was very interesting is, of course, they did receive their NRED grant and application, and with that, we are establishing a regional carbon task force. And as part of that group, we have Vault 4401, ANC, the incinerator from Swan Hills, Councillor Prestige and Councillor Kulkin. Will all be on that group as and the idea for that through the RITA is they will help to connect with industry, help to guide, help to educate, so that we can have a better understanding and help people understand what carbon sequestration is all about. The intent is to be apolitical when it comes to carbon tax and carbon regimes and all of that. This is really a discussion on what is possible, where is the science leading us, not what is the current political discussion. So that's kind of the intent behind the Carbon Task Force. And there was a presentation that we'll discuss a little bit later that had come from Vault 4401 at that as well. So those are some of the significant things for the International Economic Development Week. And going back to the point made in our last agenda item, this is one of those items where we may be able to engage with business or set up that collision space for business, right? We've had this on the agenda the last couple of years to try and do something during the first week of May, which is International Development Week, or International Economic Development Week. The problem that we run into with it is it sits right between the EDA conference and the trade fair. And so it's really tough for us to pull off 3 major events in 3 weeks. So again, this year, we don't have anything specifically planned. We do have $1,000 in the budget for this as a budget item, but we can certainly maybe move it a little bit further forward this spring. And maybe instead of it being something for International Ec Dev Week, what we do is we have some kind of a collision space around a small business appreciation evening or something like that. There's a good opportunity to rebrand and work with that.
Okay, excuse me, Bert, for just a second. I just want to interject before we get too far away from it. When you had mentioned about the RETA Regional Carbon Task Force, is there an opportunity for any members at large on that committee? And specifically in my mind, of course, I'm thinking if she was interested, I'd love to see somebody like Shelley on that committee.
I would be interested in it.
I don't know if they have a Shelley chair specifically, but absolutely, yes.
I was gonna come talk to you after, but
Yeah, well, no, and I wanted to bring it
Yeah.
up because I'm curious, like now this is a regional task force, because I'm wondering what other assets like yourself are out there that maybe, I'm wondering if they're reaching out, if there's someone else with skill sets that would be beneficial.
The intent is to include as many industry personnel around that table as possible, and there's no limit to the number of chairs. It is exactly that, a task force and a working group, and I think that your presence would be greatly appreciated.
Do they want retirees though?
Well,
I think because you're not tied to a current company, that
I'm
would be,
independent.
that you absolutely would be more
I
beneficial.
believe the term is subject matter expert.
There you go.
Correct, thank you, Bert.
You're welcome.
love that.
That's the Harvard voice again.
Thanks, Kristen.
Exactly, but as a resident subject matter expert, it's certainly something that it would be nice to hear your feedback on the committee. So, okay, and go ahead, Kristen.
Are you done, Bert?
Yep, you bet.
Oh, okay. I have a couple questions. These are our action items for 2023.
Four.
Four. Yes, and I'm sorry, you
no,
missed that on the update.
My question is a clarification question. Because this is only my second spring, we're still babies.
We're still new.
Last year in the fall, we passed or voted on the strategic plan.
Yep.
I feel like that's the work plan, no?
Yes, and what's happened is so last June, right, we had a strategic plan review
Right,
planned with council,
right,
and then that was canceled.
right.
And council hasn't done anything else with the strategic plan since.
Oh,
And we
okay.
have nothing on the council agenda for them to reconsider or do an update to the strategic plan currently. And so all of our recommendations are sitting there in the hopper, waiting for council to consider, but they haven't been considered and won't be considered until council does a strategic plan review.
I don't know if this is the time or if I'm the person but can we make a motion? This is not my motion, but I'm just asking.
Fair.
If I can make a motion for you to take it back to council to review our strategic plan and to also we had talked prior about reviewing our strategic goals. And that we have strategic goals and then we have other goals and we wanted to amalgamate instead of having 8, have like 4. So can we make a motion for something like that to happen?
It's in the hopper, and I can't really do much more to move it forward. That's the best answer I can give you. I'm sorry I can't say yes. I mean, we certainly probably could make a further recommendation or maybe move something else along as a recommendation to council. But until council has it on their agenda and is set and ready to do that review and that update, and I'll maybe defer to Councillor Williams a little bit here. Councillor Williams, does that sound like the correct information?
Yeah, the intention was to do that strategic plan workshop with everyone. It did get canceled kind of for some unforeseen circumstances, I guess. So there is talks of us still doing that and trying to plan that out. So I do, it is coming, and I understand what Bert's saying. He's in like an impossible situation because he doesn't have the power to just say, here, council, do this kind of thing. So, but what I could do is when I do my council reports, I could bring up this point at our next council meeting and talk kind of to it, that we're, trying to get to a place where we can realign all this, and we're kind of in limbo a little bit until council can do that. So I could bring something like that up. I'm sure between Bert and I, we could figure out how to word that a little more political, I guess. But definitely can bring it up.
Okay.
Thank you.
And something I would like to maybe expand on that a little bit as well is part of the conversation was two separate strategic plans, basically. It was the committee itself. We had gotten together as a committee and to discuss what it was that we were looking to go forward. And then to be able to take that information, present to council, and see how that aligned with their strategic plan and what they would approve. That being said, our committee has changed quite dramatically since that happened. And I guess my question as chair to the committee would be, knowing that we have a number of different members and so on now, what would the appetite be for the committee to revisit those, that information that we did capture from that meeting and have a meeting with our committee and essentially be able to, exactly like you had mentioned, Kristen, maybe pull together 4 main points and bring that forward as an RFD for council to consider. So I think that that would involve us having a separate strategic meeting with this group prior to.
And the outcome would be to have a concise 4 main points that we ask council to
Absolutely.
approve as our directive.
Absolutely.
I think,
If I can barge.
no,
barge
you
in
go,
here.
Devin.
Sorry.
I didn't see your hand up.
no,
Go ahead, Devin.
I didn't even waste my time with that little yellow hand. No, I think that's actually a pretty good idea because, like you said, the council it did change quite a lot. I think it would be worth a review because once we do our strategic plan as council, then it's in there. So to have your ducks in a row at the committee level first and just make sure everybody's kind of on the same page, I think there's some benefit to that for sure.
Go ahead, Kristen.
I think to have our pillars/goals aligned as well as the actions that we're asking for, because I think even the members may have changed, but I think as well our focus has changed in this committee, and I think I don't know. Yeah, I think we can have a little more if we pick different actions.
Okay.
I think that that's a fair recommendation coming from this committee, that if we set up a special meeting or a mechanism by which we can review the information that we have on file from last year to refresh it for this year, so that whenever council does schedule that review, we've got fresh information set and ready to go. That makes perfect sense.
Okay.
That's so nice, Bert.
I would definitely be open to accepting someone who would want to make a motion similar to creating a strategic review meeting for the group.
You got it?
No.
I'll make a motion that we set a special meeting to review our strategic goals, plans, to come up with a cohesive plan to present to council. Something to like that.
So friendly amendment, if we say something along the lines of, the Economic Development Committee will set a special meeting to review the strategic plan and work plan and past recommendations to have them ready for 2024.
2024 or 25?
Or for council in 2024?
Yeah, for council in 2024. Fair enough.
Okay,
Friendly
Something
amendment.
along those lines.
Thank you,
perfect.
Bert.
I accept
Okay.
the amendment.
Bye, thank you. Okay, and
No,
is there any
I
further
think
discussion
that's-
on the
I
motion?
can't do motions, I can only help craft.
Okay.
Okay, then all in favor?
In favor.
Thank you, Deb. Awesome.
And Councillor Williams, it'd be my pleasure to work with you on some notes and some updates to council so we can let them know that that's coming along as well.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Kristen.
absolutely. I think it'd be good to bring that forward and just let everyone know we're kind of working in the background on it for sure.
2 points. We had talked last year about, or maybe I had spoken at last year, about maybe like a ECDEV highlight every once in a while on the Facebook page. I think maybe some of that will be coming back to the communications and branding issue.
Yes.
But
So we did sorry, Madam Chair, I should ask.
Go ahead. That's right.
Thank you. So one of the exercises that communications has just done with council and with internal staff and some external stakeholders is we did a workshop on the future long-term communications plan.
right.
And part of that is how do we better work with and better identify information that we can communicate on behalf of other groups or groups that we identify. So communications has that and it's in the works and in the hopper for them. We're still kind of waiting and exploring how our new capacity is going to be able to work and how we're going to be able to work that into possibly, a few more Facebook posts or some different updates and some different things. We know that our communications team, and I know I sound like a broken record in saying this, but, they put out as much as they possibly can, but I know that, 3 to 5 updates a day is kind of where they're at as a maximum, and they don't want to really go over that. And so that's where, we can have information in the hopper ready for it to go. It's just we don't have control over when and how it will go. That's all.
I'm just going to interject on that maybe a question would be as well, Kristen, is this something that we could bring up in our strategic session so that we can make a proper format, what we want to say, and then make a recommendation to council as to how we want to be able to communicate that going forward? And feel free, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking like, is it going to change when the new communication plan comes out, or with Jen being here, if that's going to?
And honestly, I think it's too early to answer that.
Yeah.
Conceivably, I mean, we just did the workshop, I think it was 3 weeks ago. Might have been a month, but I think it was around 3 weeks. And it'll be a couple of months until that final study and that final part of things is done. And then I don't know what the carry forwards and everything are exactly going to be out of that. So what I would say at this point is I'm glad that it's on our radar. I know how we communicate and who we communicate to was a key part of that workshop. Where it's going to go, I really don't know.
Go ahead, Kristen.
I think it's just on my paperwork to remind for next time, just to see if we have maybe a better update with the new communications plan and everything like that. Because that's what I was just thinking about for International Economic Development Week. I'm like, could we put a post about something? But maybe.
So to revisit his discussion, or Bert's comments about International ECDEV Week, last year, what we had discussed within the committee was getting an event, like an open town hall meeting type collision event, like you said, for where small businesses could get together, scheduling it likely sometime in June, early June, and using the trade fair and the trade fair booth to be able to advertise that event in June. And that was the discussion that we had last year about creating an event for International ECDEV Week and using that $1,000 funding for that event. Now, that event never did go forward. So I'm just curious, I guess, in asking, like you had mentioned and, you had brought up as well, what is something that maybe the committee would like to do to create, some communication for our small businesses? Go ahead.
I love that idea, Bert, that you said about having that opportunity for collision. Food always attracts me, so I'm like, you can buy a lot
Well,
of food.
and that's kind of what I'm thinking is, you do kind of the wine and cheese sort of thing, and we make it as an open mixer, and we maybe have tables and topics and maybe do something like that. What's really interesting is with that SCOP grant, and again, and we'll have at least 2 or 3 engagement activities just specific to the SCOP program over the next year and a half. And that will all come out of that grant funding. So, what's interesting is we know the chamber mixers are very popular and they tend to do very well. And again, you have to have some kind of focus, have something around food. We actually had pretty good engagement this year with the budget open houses, I think, for the 2 open houses we did here. And that goes back to, it was late January, early February, somewhere in there. And it absolutely makes sense that, we as an economic development group, is a great way to promote the things that we're doing, some of the conferences we've been to, some of the information we've gathered, some of our activities, let people know about, the things that we have going on. We see the Ag Service Board Supper as an annual event being a really great event, but we don't have an equivalent business event that we do. And so maybe this is our opportunity to take a look at what do we need to do. Maybe we start with a mixer and maybe we have the opportunity to build it into something a little bit bigger, right? We are having the discussion with the chamber and with the town and with Community Futures at the moment on what to do around Small Business Week. And so we did just get a request from the chamber yesterday to set up a time and come and discuss what we could do during that 3rd week of October and how business awards might figure into that and some of that. But I think there's 2 conversations there. I think there's a business awards conversation, and then I think there's also the what do we do around Small Business Week. And so that's another opportunity. We can either approach and do that as a partnership kind of a thing, or we could maybe do something more specific just to Woodlands.
Go ahead, Krista.
Thank you, Bert. That was really good. I think if we are going to try and plan something for beginning of June, I think we would need to, do we have to pass a motion for it to go to council for them to approve money for us to have an event in the beginning of
Money's
June?
in our budget.
We have the money in the
Oh,
budget.
okay. Because I'm like,
It's just a matter of what do we want to do.
yeah. Do we discuss that today?
I'm sure we can.
Oh, gosh.
We're talking about work plan kids, so works for me. I mean, Madam Chair.
I know Bert had mentioned the budget town hall, basically the budget meetings. And I know I attended the one that was here. And I would say, it was very well attended. There was also there was a short survey, I believe, that was part of that. And I think that that's something that could be really beneficial as a way to engage with the business community from Woodlands. And realistically, also, we'd have to maybe take a look at it and see with the budget planning when they did one here and they did one in Fort Assiniboine. And I know we're a smaller group, but I certainly want to make sure that we're addressing and including the businesses and our residents in, the Fort Assiniboine, Goose Lake area as well. So I don't want to lose sight of that and just have, one event here. So maybe we'll have to look at that and see what that part looks like. But it was a very good information event, and I would see that, I think we would get engagement, but I also think we need to make a decision on that quite quickly, because I would like to see an advertisement as part of the trade fair information, because we're going to have, 2,000 or 3,000 people, hopefully, or more going through there, and it's an opportunity we will want to miss. Go ahead. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, Bert.
So
go ahead.
Madam Chair, just to throw this out as an idea, during the course of my work experience, different communities I've been in, what we've done is to do a business mixer like that, but where you're actually highlighting a couple of your local businesses. So there's a couple of ways to structure it. We can do it as a pay-to-play. So we could say, okay, hey, we're going to have this business event. It's free to attend, but we're going to showcase 5 businesses, and if you want to be a sponsor, it's X amount of dollars. And then that helps us to increase the budget and have that part of it. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is for us just to randomly approach or to pick a couple of businesses and maybe we work with or that we know, or businesses that have some highlights that we would like to kind of get out to the broader business community and say, hey, here's a business event. You've got 4 of our local businesses that are all going to give a little 5-minute presentation on what's cool about their business and what they're doing. And it's a great opportunity to come out and meet your business community and your neighbors, and we could just do something like that as well. So there's a couple of variations on what we could do. If the committee is confident in going down this path, what I would suggest is let's set a date. Let's set aside that budget allocation through a motion so that we know we've got it, and then Jen and I can go to work and we'll make something happen.
Okay, just to jump in there, actually we'll ask, did you guys have a comment first? Okay. I know when I think of it as an initial event, I would shy away myself from the pay-to-play this time, but what I would do is I would include that as a survey question for the businesses that show up and say, if we were to host an event, like this in the future, is this something that you would be interested in? And maybe put that to the community, because at this point, I think the big thing from the, that I'm looking at is I want to get the benefit of just getting businesses in the room, and I don't want them to have to pay to be there. So, if that means we only have $1,000 budget, then it's coffee and donuts instead of wine and cheese, and if that's the case, I think that it's more about creating that collision space and having valuable materials, things like, maybe it's something we can collaborate and get a little bit of information from, Christy, just to have some grant information, business support network.
Well, I mean, as a way to highlight some of the things our partners do, such as Community Futures, Business Link, the services through Christie and through GOA around labor, or the Canada Alberta Jobs Grant, any of that. I mean, all of those would be very quick, very easy presentations that would probably be beneficial to the local business community, and we could go with a lineup like that and, keep it pretty simple.
I think that's really good, because I think a lot of businesses certainly are not aware of the benefits of the Chamber Community Futures and the BSN and how they all interact and how they can support our small businesses. Oh, go ahead.
Who's Christy?
Sorry, with the business, Christy Tutts with the Business Support Network.
Yeah, Christy is our, so through Jobs, Economy and Trade, as Brad Hesback is our Regional ECDEV Specialist, or REDS, Christy is our Labor Workforce Analyst.
Go ahead.
I agree with you. I think we just need to get people meeting, greeting, talking, involved, and then maybe we can develop it into something bigger or more frequent or something like that. Like we could do one in June and then one in October again, right?
Yep, absolutely.
And it would be a good opportunity in June to maybe ask our businesses what they would like to see us do in October.
Which is the exact process we follow with the BSNs, as we're putting those together and putting those information packages together.
Right.
But it works for the BSN, so why wouldn't it work for this?
Awesome.
Can we pick a date?
In regards to the date, so I guess then my question to the committee would be, as Bert mentioned, is that something that you would like to see, like maybe ask Community Futures to do like a quick presentation, BSN, and maybe potentially the Chamber, those 3? Because we don't want it to be really long, but I'm just kind of generating conversation around that. And who would you like to see there? And go ahead.
BDC, Business Link, Chamber, Community Futures, all of those I would put on my wish list.
BDC?
BDC, Business Development Canada, they're the bank, the lender. Trevor Filo is a really good local rep, and Trevor could give us a 5-10 minute update for
See, these are ones I
BDC.
don't even know about, so I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
it is a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't even,
Well,
I knew
and if-
some of those, but I didn't know
And
all
then
of
if we
them.
wanted to do
And I'm in this
BDC,
room,
we
so.
we can throw in economic development, the Export Development Canada, and then, get into the whole rest of the alphabet soup with all of the other stuff too. But I mean, if we can identify 3 or 4 strong candidates that could all do, say, a 5 to 10 minute presentation, that gives us a great base to build off of.
I wouldn't have a ton of them, but yeah, 3 or 4 for
I
sure.
agree.
And maybe yeah, some that people don't know about, right? So,
I think we should have name tags. I don't know. Obviously, I think that's, obviously you should have name tags. But is there like something we could do so that when they sit at the table or in the chairs that they would talk with each other?
Yes, there's
I
definitely.
don't want to say play a game because I hate
No,
that, but like.
But there are some really neat, so I don't want to say icebreaker ideas, but through Peter Kenyon and the asset-based community development part of things that they do, there's a model for what they call a community cafe, and we can incorporate some elements of that. It's a really great way of getting strangers around a table and getting them talking about a common topic, and without it getting too political or too, intense, you can have a very good, very respectful conversation and start to get people to get to know each other and collaborate a bit. So I would recommend we follow a model or something similar to that.
Go ahead, Krista.
I don't know if this is gonna be, but like, or something of that sort, or maybe like speed dating.
Yeah, well, I mean, we do that at the ministry dinner. We do the ministry speed dating, and I mean, depending on what role we would like council to play, that might be something that's kind of fun. So with the EDA ministry dinner, the way it works is we have reps from the different ministries, and you have a table of about 10 to 12. And then what happens is on each course, it's your rep from the government department and the EDA representative, they move to the next table, and somebody else moves to yours, and then you stay with your group. So it's a reverse speed dating, right? And we could do something like that if we wanted to have council be our go-to group. We could have council involved in that role, or maybe it's we identify 6 or 8 of these alphabet groups like we're talking about, and we have them be the ones that rotate. We do our own little model like that,
Go ahead,
whatever
Krista.
Or
works.
people A through M stay stationary and the other half of the businesses move through, so you meet all the other people in their businesses.
Yeah.
It could be either any of those things, like meet a counselor,
Right.
meet this business rep.
And I think it depends on our timing is what, like, I'm just kind of imagining this, if this is an evening session, similar to what the budget session was, then we're looking at our 2-hour window kind of ish. So if we
It's
have,
just an icebreaker.
exactly, yeah.
Hi, I'm
so-
Kristen, I'm with Balky Gardens. I make dirt. See you later.
And, but you bring up some great ideas, and I think that could be a part of the introduction.
A t-shirt.
And kind of tied into what Bert said. One thing as well is to create interest and engagement. I guess my question to the committee would be, if we only have $1,000 budget, then,
We could probably identify more. It's just 1,000 is what we have allocated specifically for International Ed Dev Week.
right,
A
so.
lot of food for $1,000.
Well, what I was going to say is that I think that we may want to look at a couple of door prizes and make sure that it's something that we have door prizes based on engagement. You share your business card, do the survey, whatever it is, whatever outcomes we're trying to get from this, then we have an opportunity from the people in the room. So I would just say suggest to the committee that we have some of our funds available for door prizes. Go ahead.
We can also have a sign up for our business page directory.
100%.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, excellent. Okay, so that being said, I would entertain a motion from the committee to,
Devin?
our wordsmith, Bert, maybe? What's,
Yeah, Bird's probably better in this one.
Oh, gosh.
Thank you, Counselor, for the faith. If we have something along the lines of that in lieu of doing an event for International Economic Development Week, we will arrange a Woodlands County Business Mixer event for the week of, shall we say, somewhere between June 10th to 14th. Is that fair?
Yep.
yeah, I think it can't be later than that, because then we're
Agreed.
getting too late into June.
Yeah. Either the first week or the second week would be
Yeah,
fine with
I
me.
like the 10th to the 14th week if,
And then that the budget be reallocated to that event.
okay.
So
So,
we have to put a motion in the motion, just a clarification. Do we have to put in the motion that for you to contact letter soup to come and do a 5-minute presentation?
I think we've got it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, you
so,
could just add as per discussion on the end of it, and that kind of would cover that, I think.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
nice. But I do need somebody to make that motion.
Did you write it down?
No.
Can you read it back to? Putting me on the spot.
2, in lieu of ACTEV week, that the Woodlands County Business Mixer event.
I don't think the counselors need to be the ones being the ones in the seat, because I don't know what I'd probably talk to Wilhelm about dirt biking more than I would business.
Well, and I mean, you know, that's
That's
the
the
key
icebreaker.
part of
Well,
it is,
true.
we will certainly, I think it's fair to invite council.
Yeah.
But Councillor Williams, I'll be the first one to say, we know how incredibly busy our councillors are, and I know we had this conversation earlier today about councillors' time, and yeah, you have more meetings to attend than you have opportunities to, correct?
Yeah, but I think it still would be good to put it out, because even if you ended up with 2 or 3 or 4, that's still, there's still value there. And I think some would be able to make this work. So I think the invite is good. The expectation of having all 7, probably, I wouldn't hold my breath. But yeah, I think you're going to get a portion, and I think that would be probably sufficient.
And I know I would also like to add in that, I think that I'd really like to keep the idea of it as serving the business community. It's creating an area for them to be, to create that collision space so they can meet each other and so that they can see what services are available and so on. So certainly much more about the benefits for them than the benefits, you know, going back to us in that way. So,
Okay, I can try the motion.
go for it.
So in lieu of doing anything for the International Economic Development Week, that we instead have a small business mixer hosted by Woodlands County.
In June as per
in-
discussion.
In June as per discussion, and Bert and Jen to coordinate the details.
Excellent.
Something like that.
The perfect mode.
Excellent. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Are you good with it?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think we're looking good.
Awesome. I'll call the question. All in favor?
In
Really
favor.
excited.
Great work, guys.
So then with that, we do have the rest of the action items and those other items. And is there a motion to accept those as information, or is there any further discussion on any of them?
Okay.
I don't.
Bear with me for just a second here. Under work plan updates, there was just a couple of questions. So, because I think this was where, Bert, you were going to give us an update on the SCOP project, the business directory, the business development permits, and the Woodlands County local brand.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I almost forgot. We do have the motion on the minutes from last meeting about going forward and working on the local brand development and promotion of the Woodlands County Business Directory. That is underway. We are planning to bring that to the May meeting for council for consideration. The SCOP project, as mentioned, we have been approved, $80,500 is the grant amount. We had some finalizing of the budget that we had to do. That was finished today. We'll have the grant agreement signed hopefully tomorrow, and we'll be able to start moving that forward. We've identified a consultant that we would like to work with, and according to our procurement guidelines, because we're under the amount, we are able to do a sole source. And so we are looking at that process, because what it does is it would expedite the process a little bit. It's going to save us a little bit of money on the front end of the project with working with an RFP. And it gives us an opportunity to work with a consultant that I've wanted to work for in this kind of capacity for many years, and who our board chair had a chance to meet, Mr. Sean Goodeve of Goodeve and Associates. And so that's an update there. In regards to the number of business permits, the number that we got today from Planning and Development, so our total for permits for 2023 was we had 68 total permits with a total permit value of $38,975,503.56. And in regards to an update on the investment profile project, we do have the full final draft and the final draft of the 2-page document, and we're just working on doing some internal review, and then it has to be submitted to communications for final approval, and then we should be ready to go on that. And on the tails of that, we've also already started on the energy guide project with TNC Publishing, and I'm starting to move those pieces along, and so we'll have a further update on that in the coming months. But the intent is to hopefully have that completed before September of this year for the energy guide. So we'll have both of those as new items. I really am hoping to have the final draft and final approvals of the investment profile ready so that we have them for the trade fair and certainly for the SiteLink events.
Okay, can you expand on the energy guide project and what that is, what you're?
Yeah, so with the energy guide, the idea and the intent was going back to our fate, our forestry, ag, tourism, and energy. This was put into the budget last year with the intention of being able to do guides for each of those major industries. So forestry is one that we'll touch a little bit later this year. The Ag Chronicles, through a longer than expected process, is out and is published. The tourism guide is, we're not going to be doing one specifically ourselves, but we have the growth tourism guide that we're relying on. So that was, came back in a new format last year, and we're just in the process of, it's going to be in the same format again this year. So growth has just now started to reach out. Ellen McCormick has been hired as the contractor to do and to put that guide together again, so same as it was last year. So on the energy side of it, what we've identified is we're going to talk to kind of the top 12 to 15 ratepayers from the energy sector that are within Woodlands County. And the intent is to ask them each to give us about a 2-page summary of what are their operations within Woodlands, what are their overall goals, how long, some of the historical stuff. We're going to ask them, instead of us writing the articles for them, in this space it's much easier to allow them to use their own communications personnel and their own messaging. And we're going to have a couple of specific questions which hopefully we can kind of box out for each group, which is number of local employees, maybe local payroll, contributions to local charities, all that kind of thing. What is their community role? What is their involvement in the county? And the intention is to, after approaching all of these companies, have enough of them. Hopefully we'll have about 10 to 12, maybe a little bit more, and maybe we'll have the opportunity to approach some of the smaller companies as well. But out of the gate, this was kind of the plan. And then TNC will actually write the stories, or help assist in writing the stories, assist in putting all of the layout and everything together. And we'll be all said and done. So that's the intent around the energy guide. And 3 to 5 months. We'll see.
Is the goal to market that then as for further business investment, like to use that at SiteLink, or what is the goal of the end product?
So part of the reasoning and the question is when we get questions from the outside on, well, okay, tell us about your local economy, right? It's been a developing story the last couple of years for us to be able to have more of our own unique data to say, well, hey, here's what our Woodlands economy really looks like, right? So right now we've kind of got it broken down that, well, we know the sectors with the investment profile. We've got some of the specifics. We have the updated census numbers, which, yes, thank God, I'm glad we finally have them, as well as some other numbers. Some of those are already visible and live through our local intel tools on our county website as well. But some of that data and some of that updated data is going to be what's in our printed profile. And the hope and the intent is now we'll be able to be on a course where we'll be able to update that investment profile at least every 2 years. And then with the energy guide, and then hopefully a forestry guide to come, what we'll be able to do is we'll be able to say, well, here's an overview of what our economy looks like and who our key players are, right? And especially when we're doing the site selection piece, going back to the comments that have been made this meeting about how important relationships are, it really is meaningful when somebody from outside looks and goes, wow, West Fraser is in Woodlands County. Wow, Canfor is in Woodlands County. Wow, GE is in Woodlands County. Wow, Pembina is in Woodlands County, right? Those are meaningful. And so we've really been lacking the right tool or resource and really been underselling the amount of investment that we have here. So that was kind of the main intent with the guides. And in talking to a few different ECDEV practitioners, a couple of the energy companies themselves, rather than us sitting down and saying, hey, we want to write 500 words and blah, 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 because a lot of them don't have the local authority to say too much about operations, right? But if we go this process and we say, we want you to give us 2 pages with some photos of some of the cool things about your company, what do you do in our area, then it's us basically stitching together everybody's messaging into one guide, and it's going to make it very positive, I think.
Okay, perfect. Go ahead, Kristen.
Hold on. Can I move to adopt or receive, what's the word? Accept the Economic Development Committee's work plan updates as information?
Absolutely. There's a motion. Is there any further discussion on the motion?
Thank you.
I'll call the question. All in favor?
In favor.
Thank you. Alrighty, so then we are moving right along. And that brings us, correct me if I'm wrong here, Bert, I don't believe we have anything under 8.1 Blue Sky for this meeting.
We had nothing for Blue Sky for this meeting,
Okay,
correct,
perfect.
Madam Chair.
So then under 9, if we go right down to, we don't have anything under 9.1 for committee reports either?
Nothing for committee reports for this evening, no.
Okay, and then 9.2, take it away. Actually, for the information items, sorry, normally for the information items, we actually just ask if there's any discussion within the committee for any of the information items.
I do actually have one thing I want to point out though, if I can.
Perfect.
So as mentioned earlier, that new site selection tool is up, and I thought I had included the link somewhere. New Resources Alberta Site Selection Tool is there, so please take the opportunity to check it out. What was incredibly interesting is, of course, with the weekly review, and as was mentioned in the economic update at the EDA conference, the population growth into Alberta in the 3rd and 4th quarter of last year was phenomenal. Not since 1981 have we seen that kind of growth and those kind of numbers. And it's pretty exciting. And, I often talk about my Saskatchewan roots, but you're here from a lot of other parts of Canada as an economic refugee, in quotes, so to speak. And I think we're starting to see that. People are fleeing the high costs of living and the high prices of housing in some of the big urbans, and they're starting to locate and come into Alberta. So exciting stuff. We just need to be able to capture our portion of that incredible population growth, that's all.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Kristen.
I move to accept the items presented as information.
Awesome. Any further discussion? All in favor?
In favor.
Awesome, and that is passed. So that actually brings us to section 10, to the in-committee session. And I will actually ask for a motion to move the committee into our in-camera session
I make a motion that we
7:32,
move.
is that the correct time?
at 7:32. That's the correct time.
I make a
Thanks.
motion that we move into in-committee session for discussion at 7:32 PM,
Awesome, thank
April
you.
18th.
I will call the question. All in favor?
Does Devin get to stay with us?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
All in favor?
In favor.
Thank you. And we'll just wait a few moments while Jen disconnects our video, or our live feed. Pardon me? Live stream. Yes, right. Thank you.